I'm Renee Galvan. I'm the president and CEO of HAR. I started with HAR in 1996, and I became executive vice president in 1998. HAR is already known as the greatest association in America, and I really just want to build on the foundation that has been built. Members are the heart of the organization, and I really want to hear from you to know what's working and what isn't, so we can continue to make HAR the very best. HAR's commitment to its members will never change. Technology might change, the market will change, but we will always be here to serve you. I met my wife at the University of Texas. We are both CPAs. One of my sons is a CPA, and my other son is an engineer. I guess that makes us a numbers family. HAR is here for you. I'm excited for what's ahead, and I'm honored to serve as the president and CEO of HAR.
What's the best thing you can do when selling your home?
Make sure it's on HAR.com.
HAR.com is where other sites get their home data. So when it's listed here, it's everywhere.
Plus, on HAR.com, homebuyers get access to tools they can trust and the most up-to-date home listings online.
Don't miss out on more potential shoppers, offers, and a faster sale when selling your home.
So, ask your agent.
Is your home on HAR.com?
When it came time to buy a new home, I needed the perfect zen.
I needed the perfect office.
The perfect schools.
The perfect deal.
Whatever your perfect is, you'll find it on HAR.com. Because HAR.com is where almost all of the homes in your area are listed for sale first, and where those other home sites get their listings from. Plus, we've got the shopping tools you can actually trust. So when you're ready to find your perfect, shop HAR.com.
Honey, is our home listed on HAR.com?
Yeah, it just went live. Why?
This is way better than my sister's place.
I know. I guess it works.
Well, HAR.com is where almost all homes are listed first and where the other websites pull their homes from.
Oh, is that quartz?
So when we list our home on HAR.com, it gets listed everywhere, which means...
more potential shoppers, offers, and a faster sale.
Exactly.
It's giving home.
Good morning and welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Director of Social Media and Sponsorships for HAR. Before we get started with today's topic, which is a very important one for all realtors, I wanted just to announce that this week's Member Focus Monday and HAR On the Move podcast are sponsored by Bridgeland. We will hear more from them later in the show. Now, today we are talking about something that doesn't always get enough attention in our industry, and that is burnout. Real estate can be demanding, and it's easy to find yourself overwhelmed, stretched too thin, or maybe even running on empty. Joining us today is Tammy Benefil with Lotus & Koi, and she's going to help us better understand what burnout really looks like, how to avoid it, and how to get back on track. Welcome to the show, Tammy.
Thank you so much, Christina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Again, this is such an important topic. And with May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we thought it was a great time for us all to take a time out and talk about this. But let's start with a really quick introduction, if you don't mind. If you could share your background and the work you do.
Absolutely. I am the owner of Lotus & Koi, as she mentioned. And in that capacity, I am a certified life coach, an energy worker, and I and just basically hosting retreats, workshops for wellness. I also teach CEs, I do personal development. And lastly, and most recently, I am an author. So I just published my first book and I'm really excited about that.
That's wonderful, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good. So burnout, it's something many realtors experience, but maybe don't always talk about. Um, how exactly would you define burnout?
I would say that burnout is more than just a state of being tired. It is chronic depletion, and it comes from constantly pouring into other people without taking time to rejuvenate and refill our own cup. So, really, what happens is when we give, and we never receive or take time for ourselves and to get ourselves back into a state of well being, then we get depleted and it can be debilitating.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about it just from a real estate perspective, but of course, realtors are whole people with whole lives and responsibilities outside of their work. And so, yeah, I can see how it can really overwhelm people. You know, I think understanding what early signs are might be helpful. So, what are some of the early signs that someone may be heading towards burnout?
Absolutely. Well, and I can speak from experience because I myself suffered burnout about 5 years ago, which is what led me to teaching this CE class in the first
Mm,
place. Some of the early signs are, of course, feeling exhausted, feeling
mhm,
disconnected, also, not finding joy in the things that you used to find joy in, kind of
mm,
feeling like you're on that autopilot state where you're just going through the motions, you're experiencing life, but not in a way that feels full or
mm,
complete. It can also look like irritability when people are really stressed out. They have shorter tempers, so a little bit more irritable.
mm,
Um, it can also feel overwhelming. The smallest tasks can seem as though they're mountains to climb. And
mm.
so, just starting to notice and get to know your body and these signs is really helpful in determining where you're at on that burnout scale. I know when
So
I
why?
went through,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I went through my burnout, we had our company for about 15 years. And
Hmm.
this is the home inspection company, not my company.
Hmm.
And I was wearing all the hats. And over time, our company grew, but I didn't. And so at one point, I was just in such a state of disconnect and overwhelm that I could barely get out of bed in the morning. I was
Mm,
exhausted all the time. I couldn't make decisions. Like I couldn't even decide what to eat at night because it was just it seemed like too much.
mhm.
So that was the severe end, but noticing our our body's little signs in the beginning is going to help greatly before you get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. We didn't mention at the beginning, but you co-own Red Star Home Inspection as well. So closely aligned with real estate and how
Yeah.
we came to know each other. And yeah, I mean it really shows that even if you are, running a successful business, this can happen. Why do you think not sorry, why do you think burnout is so common in real estate and what tends to cause burnout?
Well, I can tell you exactly why it's so common in real estate because real estate is exactly what got me to that place. In this industry, it's a highly emotional transaction every time. We have
Mm,
buyers on one end that are purchasing probably the biggest purchase of their lives, and it's very emotional for them, which we take on all of that stress. But also, we're on all of the time, so
mm.
I kept the same hours as realtors, which meant always never had a break, never had a start time or a stop time, worked
Mhm.
every single day, even on vacation, even on holidays. And so not having any time to rest and rejuvenate and take care of myself is part of the reason that I ended up in burnout. But also for realtors, there's not knowing when you're going to have your next paycheck,
Yeah.
or not knowing if a deal is actually going to close and you're really depending on that sale.
Hmm.
There is sometimes the realtor on the other end is not always easy to work with, or the sellers aren't easy to work with, or even your
Hmm.
buyers aren't easy to work with. And so all of these things add to the stress. And that stress, if we don't close out our stress cycles as they come, that stress builds up over time, and it's a slow progression. So you don't even know that it's happening. And before
Mm.
you know it, you're this person just going through the motions without any feeling, not being able to get excited, not feeling joy anymore, literally just feeling like work is your entire life.
Mm. Yeah.
Can be
Wow.
very, very difficult.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, we want to kind of stop it before we get there. So, what are a few practical things that agents can do to prevent burnout, but really before it gets to that point?
Number one would be closing out stress cycles.
Mm.
And that can be anything that gets you into a place of well being. So, what happens when we're in burnout is we're stuck in fight or flight. And fight or flight is really important to us because it keeps us safe from harm and danger. But it's very different now than it used to be. So, our ancestors needed fight or flight so that they didn't have to relearn every time that a saber-toothed tiger was going to eat them,
Mhm.
right? Now, our stress looks different. Our stress is more based on work emails,
Mhm.
traffic, kids fighting in the background, maybe a spat with your spouse, feeling like you're on a time crunch for certain things, being overworked. We're getting bombarded, and I haven't even touched on like social media stress and
Yeah.
news stress. And it is just constant, and we're being bombarded. And our central nervous system doesn't know how to handle it. It's only meant to be in stress for short periods of time. But
Mm.
now we're in this chronic state of stress where we're
Mhm.
just taking it all in and never getting it out of our body. And our body actually holds on to all of that.
Mm.
So, I would say a few things that are really important is getting your central nervous system back into a state of well-being, which is the exact opposite of fight or flight.
Mhm.
And you can do that with simple tools. Number one, awareness, which you're doing today by being here. So
Mhm.
congratulations, everyone. Um, Also, making yourself a priority. We
Mm.
always feel so guilty about making ourselves a priority. And we don't realize how important it is until we're in that place of burnout or illness or disease. And then we
Mm.
realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be taking care of myself too. So, really making yourself a priority and making sure that you are doing the things that you love alongside the things that you quote unquote have to do
Yeah.
is a key.
Wonderful. Well, many people may already be feeling like they are burnt out. A comment came in from Monique. She said, I've been in that place for a while. So, if someone's already feeling burned out, what are the first steps they can take to really turn it around?
Monique, I feel your pain. And all of you that are already feeling that way, you're not alone. There are a lot of people in that same space with you, even though it feels very lonely there. You are not alone.
Mhm.
I would say some of the first steps, though, would be to really get to know yourself. Go inside and really start asking yourself some of the questions, like things like, who am I when I strip away my titles and my roles?
Mhm.
What is important to me? Like, what are my top 5 core values as a human being? How do I want to show up in the world? And as you get to know yourself, you also want to start implementing some tools that are very helpful for calming the central nervous system. So one would be breath work. Breath work is a very easy tool. You don't need a practitioner. You don't need a special space to do it. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in your car when you're driving. You can do it at your desk when you're stressed out. So, breath work is as simple as breathing in and then exhaling for a longer time than you're inhaling. So, if you breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 8 seconds. And that will send a signal to your central nervous system that you're safe. And then another one, and it sounds funny, but shaking your whole body. If you've ever seen any of the nature shows, Nat Geo, and you see maybe it's an antelope getting chased by a lion, as soon as the antelope is safe, like it's gotten away, it'll shake its whole body. And that literally releases the stress patterns from the body and signals to the brain that we are now safe and the threat has passed. So it can actually, it looks funny, but it can be really, really helpful if you're going through stress just to shake your body. But there are a lot of tools available on YouTube that anybody can access for free. Breath work, somatic release, there's meditations. Any of these things that will calm the central nervous system are really, really helpful.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, obviously, this isn't something that happens overnight. I mean, you mentioned the breath work, and while you were speaking, I went ahead and did a little bit of breath work, and I feel good. But it's not always that easy. So, how long does it typically take to recover from actual burnout, and what should we realistically expect during that process of recovery?
Yeah, so I would say the recovery process is not a one size fits all. Depends on where you're at in the spectrum of burnout. But I would say if you start implementing the tools and taking time for self care, I just want to say this here too. Self care is not selfish. Self care is mandatory if you do not want to end up in burnout. And our body is always keeping the score. So self care is very, very important. As far as how long it takes, I would say within the first few weeks, when you start implementing the tools, you'll start noticing small shifts. And then within a few months of continually doing these things, you'll start to feel your energy returning, your zest for life returning. You won't feel so automatic pilot. And that does take time, and you can expect to have good days and bad days. They're not all going to be perfect, but you just keep doing what you're doing, and eventually you just wake up one day and you're like, oh wow, I feel great. I haven't felt like that in a long time. But there's ups and downs. It's not going to be a linear line. We heal in a spiral, and each time something happens and we fall off the wagon, there's an opportunity to heal that at a deeper level. And so don't look at it as failure, look at it as, oh, what lesson is there here for me to learn? And that's basically what burnout is. Burnout is our body trying to communicate with us that it's not cohesive, it's not in alignment. So just really feeling into that and going deeper is what's going to help you get out of it.
Excellent. Excellent. I wanted to share, there's been some good chatter going on in the comments. I wanted to share a few comments that came in that might be helpful. First off, Monique just said, thank you so much. So she's appreciating hearing from you. A few other comments. Margot said, essentially, you have to stop yourself, right? You did, as you're saying, you just kind of have to stop yourself in your tracks. A comment from Crystal, who works in our professional development department. She reminded us that we have a class called Building a Purpose-Driven Career that can help you shift your business mindset to prevent burnout. And we did share a link to that in the comments for anyone who's interested. A couple more quick comments here. Joyce said, anyone who knows me knows that I'm at the YMCA every Wednesday for a line dancing class. This is a non-negotiable for me. So that sounds fun. Francisco said, in addition to breath work, I do a mindfulness exercise where I focus on the senses, see, hear, feel. It's huge during a high stress moment. And then he said, great info here. Any comments on that one from Francisco there, Tammy?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes when we're in that fight or flight, we get stuck in a loop in our head, right? We keep thinking the same thought repetitively over and over. And one of the fastest ways to get out of that is to do exactly what Francisco said. You can stop and say, all right, find 5 red things in the room. And then you look for those 5 red things. What do I smell? What do I feel right now? How does it feel to be sitting in this chair? It's basically a presence exercise, being present in the moment. And oftentimes when we're stressed out, we're thinking in the future. We are so far in the future that we are not even here right now. So being present is a really great way to get back in the body, to calm ourselves down, and to just be here and now.
Yeah.
I love that
Wonderful.
one.
Yeah, and thank you for that comment, Francisco. One more here before we move to my next question for you. Hina said she loves art, and for a while she had given up on it because she wanted to focus on work. But now going back to painting has given me that venting that I needed to just relax and get rid of anxiety. So we love that for you, Hina.
Yes, absolutely. That is so vital. Doing the things that we love, that bring us joy, and especially creativity. Creativity is a really high vibration to be in. And so oftentimes it just brings an immense amount of joy. So good for you, Hina. That's
Yeah.
great.
Well, let's talk a little bit about boundaries because, we hear boundaries are important when it comes to our live work lifestyle and all of that. But how important are boundaries specifically in this industry? And what does that look like in real life for a realtor?
Let me just say, boundaries are your safety net in this industry. And I know they sound really scary. Like, what do you mean boundaries? That sounds like I'm stepping away from my business. But I promise you that that is not at all the case. In fact, some of the most successful long term realtors have very clear boundaries because without boundaries, your business is not going to be sustainable. You're going to get depleted. So, boundaries can look very simple, like having clear start and stop times and communicating that to your clients will actually help them to value you as a professional, and they will see that you show up clear headed, you're more responsive, you make better decisions because you're not in that state of fight or flight. Boundaries could also look like having one day a week where you completely unplug and rest and rejuvenate. It can also be scheduling the things that are important to you on your calendar. If you time block or keep a calendar, schedule the things that are important to you along with the things that you need to do. Very simple, very clear, but making sure that those things don't get put off because the first thing to go is always what's important to us, right? We're all givers. We give, give, give. And so it's really important to learn to receive if you want to stay in a state of well-being.
Yeah, that's such a great point because I could see somebody having the good intention of, you know what, I'm going to schedule a mental health walk, just a little escape midday for myself where I can just take a break and go maybe enjoy some nature and go for a walk. But then if something comes up, what's the first thing that gets cut from that calendar is that escape a lot of times. So protecting that, as you're saying, is so important. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Tammy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I have a few more questions for you, and I do see more comments coming in that I want to address a few of those. But before we move into all of that, just a quick reminder that this week's Member Focus Monday and the HAR On the Move podcast are sponsored by Bridgeland. Let's take a quick look at what they have to offer. Thank you again to Bridgeland and Howard Hughes Communities for your support. You can visit bridgeland.com for more information and check out what those communities have to offer for your clients. So, actually, when we were taking a look at that, Tammy, we had a comment that came in from Erica who said, we're always scared if we don't answer emails or calls or texts, they'll dump us for another agent. People panic and don't always have patience. So what would you say to someone who feels like they can't slow down or take time for themselves without hurting their business?
I would say that I completely understand, number one. And you're right, sometimes they do. But I like to lean into that and think that what is meant for me is going to be mine. And really, the truth is, burnout or chronic exhaustion is going to far more affect your relationships, your career, than stepping away a little bit to take care of yourself. Because when you do step away and take that time for yourself, you show up more grounded, you show up more professional, you're able to make the decisions. Because when we're in fight or flight, our prefrontal cortex goes offline and our amygdala takes over. But our prefrontal cortex is where our reasoning comes from. It's where we are able to make decisions. And so when we take time to step away and take care of ourselves, then we are creating that sustainable business that will outlast those who don't take care of themselves. And I know that it sounds crazy to actually turn off your phone or take a day off, but I promise you, your clients will understand. And if there's an emergency, of course you're going to take care of it. But if it's not an emergency, there's no need to respond to text late at night. There's no need to stop what you're doing during your time to refill your cup. If it's something that can be handled the next business day. And again, communicating to your clients, I think, is the biggest key there. If they know what to expect, they will respect you as a professional.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, you said turn off your phone, and I would venture to guess that some people maybe shuddered when you said that. But I see a comment here from Becky that said, I really try not to answer my phone for work after 7-ish at night. It does help me take a breather and relax. So there you have it. Somebody who's in the industry and doing exactly that. Janet made a comment, the power of pausing. Boundaries is key. It's okay to say no to others and say yes to yourself to be able to prioritize and balance your peace. Boundaries are key for success. So very good. We love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if there are any questions for Tammy, you can type those in and I'll get to those because we're nearing the end of my questions for her. But I can just tell already there's a lot of great comments coming in, good advice, things like that happening in the comments. So we really appreciate what you had to share with us today, Tammy. If there was just one takeaway that you hope every realtor can walk away with when it comes to managing burnout, what would that be?
I would say you do not have to sacrifice your well being for your career. You can have both. And it's really not as hard as it sounds. I say this from experience. I know how hard all of this sounds like, taking breaks and stepping away and pouring into yourself. But honestly, it's very easy. And the more that you do it, you will see how much better you show up in the world. Like, how do you want to show up for your clients? How do you want to show up for yourself and your family? So, really, just learning that balance is absolutely vital. And you can start even just small steps like creating a morning routine. When you wake up in the morning, instead of reaching straight for your phone or your laptop to check emails and putting yourself instantly into fight or flight, you can create a beautiful morning routine where you take time for yourself to do something positive. Maybe you stretch. Maybe you take a walk. Maybe you meditate. Maybe you read scripture. Maybe you listen to a positive podcast. Do something fulfilling for yourself before you start the day, because that automatically gets you into the state of well being. And then as those stressors come throughout the day, you'll react differently to them. You won't react in the way that you would if you were already in fight or flight. So, taking small steps, baby steps towards feeling good and being in that state of just, I've got this. I can handle this. I can handle anything that comes at me. Whereas before, when I was in fight or flight, making a phone call seemed overwhelming. So really, I think taking those baby steps and putting yourself first, making yourself a priority is the one key takeaway that I would really, really like for each and every one of you to walk away with, and also know that you are so supported. There is so much on YouTube and on the internet that you can tap into. I have some guided meditations that you can follow on YouTube, but there are tons. There's breath work, there's somatic release, there is um, guided everything, basically. Anything that you can imagine is on YouTube. So use those tools, use those resources. They're there
Very
for
good.
you.
Very good. And it is that convenient, right? I mean, if you're maybe in the middle of your day, you're waiting on a client to show up for a meeting or a showing, pull up one of those YouTube videos, right? I mean, that could really give you some time right there in the middle of your day.
Absolutely. Even a 10-minute break between appointments where you just breathe. Breath is like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but when we're stressed out, we're breathing shallow or we're holding our breath. But if you've ever seen a baby breathe, say they're laying on their back sleeping, you see their stomach rise and fall. We're supposed to be breathing from our stomach and then up into our lungs, but oftentimes we're shallow breathing. So taking deep intentional breath is a good way to really calm your nervous system. And you can take those little mini breaks throughout the day. Close out those stress cycles. When something stresses you out, be sure to close that stress cycle out before you start a whole new stress cycle.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just compounds.
Wonderful. Well, just a few more comments here. Jesse said, sometimes we're too busy taking care of others. We forget to take care of ourselves. So great advice. Hina said, today is a new day. Do not carry in the baggage from yesterday. And a few other people talking about their mental health walks they take. They read scripture. Set an alarm to take time for yourself and just take a few deep breaths. That just came in from Dan. So wonderful advice in the comments. And of course, Tammy, again, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your insights. This is something so many agents experience, and just having the right tools and the right perspective can really make a big difference.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I am a resource for all of you. If any of you guys have questions, you know how to find me.
Absolutely. And we can put a link to Lotus and Koi, which is Tammy's company, in the comments for anybody who is looking to connect with her directly. Again, for those watching, take a moment to check in with yourself and think about where you might need to reset or change. Because remember, small adjustments can move you into a healthier direction. And one more just quick thank you to Bridgeland and Howard Hughes Communities for sponsoring this week's Member Focus Monday and HAR on the Move podcast. Also, next week, be sure to join us as we welcome Mark Raphael, who's going to talk to us about protecting yourself and your business. So we will see you then. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.